He talked about some countries that have moved forward. You talked about countries including within the context, reading and writing within the context. But I do know that some other countries have added another bit of it, speaking and listening. They've added that to their definition of literacy. But we are still within the area of reading and writing within the context. This thing started in 1967, the celebration, but this is 2018. What should we be doing now to move us beyond this point where we are?
One of it is talk about it, which is great. I commend you for creating this platform. So one of it is talk about it. One of it is also to have a strategy. It's very important for me to talk a bit about what, for example, Lagos State has done in the last couple of years. So Lagos State came up with a program called Ekonkeko, which is an adult literacy program, and trained people to go and start adult literacy campaigns all over the place. So that's a strategy around it. That's something we should do about it. I think one of the things we also need to do is each of us as citizens and responsible people in society need to start to become deliberate to ensure nobody around us is an illiterate. Because what happens is that somebody goes to cut his hair tomorrow, goes to plait her hair tomorrow, goes to a salon, you'll likely see one small child there who might be totally illiterate. I think all of us should start that campaign. And I want to remind us, you know what happened like 2 months ago? There was one issue that came up online about one 5-year-old boy in Ibadan, Taju. The boy allegedly, not allegedly, the boy was picked by a comedian and they did a skit together, and the comedian was, as it were, making fun of the child because the guy could not speak English. Taju he lives in Ibadan. Ibadan was where we introduced free education to Nigeria in 1956, 1957. How can you imagine that Ibadan, that has been having free education as far back as the 1950s, can have in 2018 a child who cannot speak English? So that's why we need to have that conversation. And also to also align with what you said, where the world is today now is that the problem of literacy is dealt with before schooling starts. And that's where the issue about early child education comes in. So, you know, if you have a child who has parents who are educated, before the child starts school, the child can speak English, right? The child can speak English and may be able to scribble a few words. So, and that's where the issue about stakeholders and the role of parents. Parents and society members may have more role in literacy than teachers, because the expectation is that before your child starts school at age 6, based on our educational policy, that child should have been able to speak and be able to scribble a few words. So that's part of the mobilization we need to do to get parents and members of society to start to think about it. Maybe the last thing I want to say is that, can we as friends and parents start to think about what we need to do to encourage children to read? You know, a child goes to a party, a birthday party of his mates, and when he's going, they give him a party pack. What do we typically find in those party packs? Sweets, biscuits. What do we start to replace them with books? And let people go to children's party, and part of the games, you know, the Uncle Clown and all of those things. What if reading is part of the games that will start to introduce in those parties? What if we will start to introduce books and writing materials in those party packs to make children realize it's important to read, such that people can read effectively and enjoy reading and writing?
It's interesting you bring this up, because when my children were growing up, at their parties, books were given out.
Oh, great.
And I got told off by parents. Did I want them to become professors at 10? So that kind of mentality is also somewhere. But literacy and skills development, that's the theme for this year. Can you just take us through exactly what that means? Okay, we're talking about literacy, and we're talking about, I mean, which is a very basic, so we're thinking about children, and then we're talking about skills development.
Okay, so the whole idea is to say, if you are not literate, there are certain skills you will never have.
Okay.
You will never be able to do it because those skills are based on being literate. So you can't be a doctor if you are not literate. I mean, you can't walk in channels this way.
Did you have to go that far?
No,
Doctor. I mean,
yeah. So to tell you how literacy can even affect people's potential and destiny, for those that use the word destiny to define potentials. So the whole idea is, we will not have a skilled world if we don't have a literate world. And if we don't allow children to be literate, we already limit their chances. It's also trying to link to say the quality of literacy will affect the quality of skills. So give you an instance, you have a good, well, we used to call them tailors when we were young. Now they say they are fashion designers. Whatever, they sew clothes. Okay, those guys.
Thank you.
So you have a good tailor, fashion designer, who can't read. The quality of the work will be affected because
How does he measure?
How does he measure? How does he remember? You know, tailors those days, I don't know now, you know, they measure you and they memorize all the numbers. Now you have tailors these days, once they measure, they have to write it down, because of the fact that the literacy capacity has reduced. So what it's saying is that we need to start to align literacy to be able to drive skills development. We need to be able to ensure that we elevate the quality of literacy to affect the kind of skills people can get. The last point, and I'm sure many Nigerians can relate to this, footballers. I mean, one of the areas Nigerians are very passionate about footballers, and we produce very great footballers. But you have footballers that were produced in Nigeria that could not read, were not literate. And some of them went to other countries where they give them contract to sign. And once they saw 00000 in front of whatever, they signed. And in a particular case, one of the guys that I remember that I think it was Pele or Maradona that said this is supposed to be the next greatest player in the world, got in that same scenario and signed a document and while not being literate. And of course, the implication was that the guy actually signed his whole career to a single club. And the guy, we never heard about him any longer. So it's still the same thing. And me and you as educated people, you know, you can be educated but lose literacy capacity. So what happens to a typical person?
There goes me again.
No, so ask somebody, you buy a gadget, it always comes with a manual. Do people read it? Then the thing doesn't work. And then the person calls someone who is an illiterate and calls him a repairer to come and repair. And there is a troubleshooting component in that book.
Manual.
There are people that are giving drugs today that will not read the side effect of the drugs. So you are given a drug and they put their side effects. You may not be able to sleep well in the night, or you may be feeling drowsy, right? They don't read it. Then they go and they cancel and they are complaining that they can't sleep. So it's not just about, so we have to deal with those people who were not literate because they could not read and write. There are also the need for those of us that are educated to not lose our interest in literacy and just have this commitment to read it.
Now, Mr. Kolowole, we're talking about literacy, and when we started, he reeled off some percentages, literacy levels in Nigeria. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't there a law in this country that says that every child of school age should go to school?
Like he said, our schooling starts from 6 officially in our national curriculum demands. Now, I love, like he said, this Oyo State, education was not just free, it was compulsory. It was a criminal offense not to go to school. The government will come to your house to pick your kids, to pick you for not sending your children to school. I was not alive then. My father told me. And I think some of these dimensions helped fast-track the progress of that race, of that time. And we need
Of Western region.
Of the Western region. I think we need to go back to a dimension of that. That we will enforce the law. The law will be enforcing that if you have a child around you, maybe 6, is 5, is 7, and you're just engaging the child without ensuring he or she is literate, it's a big risk on the future.
Who is going to enforce?
The government.
The government? I'm sure government officials drive by Maryland and see those children hawking during school hours.
You know, it actually reduced when there was a level of enforcement. Civil society, you and I, like Mr. Foymi shared with us, is all of us. When you see a child, sometimes I'm driving on the road, I see a child of school age not in school. I park right beside him and say, what are you doing right here? Why are you not in school? Those type of engagement, even asking brings those children to a level of consciousness that this is not right. There is something wrong with this method. And, you know, like he said, even you're a plumber today and you don't know how to read or write, your opportunities are limited.
Yeah. Sure.
Football,
sure.
We can apply it across the board. So it's when the UNESCO begins to discuss literacy through skill development, they can see that the new life you are really looking for is in your literacy level. When you know you can read up online, you can see how your peers are doing it, you can try new method, and it is what all of us must engage in. But I suggest civil societies are going to play a lot of roles, But government, like we know, is our big brother every time. When government says it's a no, it's actually a no. Then I can take a parent to the police station and say there is a crime you have committed for not sending your child to school. I think we should have those conversations.
I know it's also good for us to remember that what we're saying, we're not saying anything. I grew up in Ibadan. We used to have a governor, Paul Tafa. Paul Tafa, when he's going to work in Agodi, any child, it's not that you are not going to school, it's that you are late to school. The governor will pack and discipline you for being late to school. We had Governor Mudashiru. Mudashiru was governor a couple of years, well, a couple of years, a long time now. That some students were not in school and they went to play at the beach or something.
Yeah, just hold it. We'll come back to that point. Students playing at the beach.
At the beach.
Please don't go away.